Good evening, everybody. Like I mentioned in the beginning, today we will be discussing about this topic of chakras, quite a central one in yoga practice and experience, you might say. But before I go ahead into the topic, I wanted to also do a brief recap of the topics we have covered so far. As you know, we have done two other topics on gaining health and vitality. One was on energy, cosmic energy, how to utilize that energy, how to derive it from different sources, how to feel it in the body, how to gain control over it, and ultimately by that how to feel its presence to manifest health, to feel vitality. So that was one thing. The other topic was on healing through sound, music and silence. And once again, in both these topics of energy and sound, I had at that time made a brief mention of chakras. That sound, yes, there are so many other kinds which heals us, we saw. But today we will go into the deeper, inner aspect, the esoteric aspect of the yoga science, which makes us realize of these realities within ourselves. And that is where true vibrational healing happens. So I also want to let you know that if you have any questions about this, after about half an hour to 35 minutes of this sharing, you will have 15 minutes to post your questions, which I can help answer. So, chakras. Now, many people, as you know, they know about the topic of chakras. They know about this thing, chakras. They come asking, I want to know more about chakras. Do you teach about chakras? Do you share about chakras? It has become as common as the term, you might say, yoga and meditation itself. Especially in India, where people read, about this and they have their questions. And Yogananda ji, Swami Kriyananda ji also greatly spoke about chakras. And what are they? What is the literal meaning of chakra, you might say? Chakra is a Hindi word, a Sanskrit word also, you might say, which means chakra, a wheel. And or on a deeper aspect, we may think of it or visualize it as a vortex or as a whirlpool also. And these are said to be energy centers of our astral body. And I will talk about the astral body. And these centers, just as there are, you might say, openings and nerve channels in our body through which impulses travel, so do the energy currents flow in our astral body through the chakras, and they are energy stations and they are located in a certain place. Now, before we go into greater detail, I want to share a few things about the astral body. Now, I am also a doctor and my training was happening in surgery, and for a while it was my job to assist spinal surgeries. So at that time I got to see different portions of the spine, and when I came on the yogic path, I saw diagrams of the anatomy of the astral body and of the mention of chakras, and here were all these chakras along the spine. They are situated along they are not part of the physical spine, they are actually in front of the physical spine, the spinal cord. You might say if you look at the body from side, they are in the central. And I was quite, for a moment I thought, I didn't see them. And of course I didn't see them, it struck me, because they are part of the astral body, and I was very intrigued to know about the astral body. We all, those of us who have read Autobiography of a Yogi, will remember that chapter where Sri Yukteswar ji comes to Paramahansa Yogananda ji after leaving his body. He rematerializes and in flesh, and then he tells him about the other realities that are present. And as much as chakras can become a topic of interest, or just like people often superficially touch on it, and today also we will touch on it superficially, because ultimately it's, one has to experience these things. But I mentioned the word superficial because people take it lightly, but it is not meant to be treated that way. Actually, anything beyond the physical body, I came to realize when I learned about these teachings, it's a sacred science that is revealed as per our quest. And I would really urge you to make a deep study of these things. By the way, today I will be sharing from two books. One of them is Chakras for starters, this is our own publication and you can study this book. The other is The Art and Science of Raja Yoga, which has these these chapters on this topic. Now, as a doctor, my father is a physician, my sister is a psychiatrist, and I was training, as I said, as a surgeon. And my interest actually, more than surgery, lied in preventive medicine. So you can imagine me going in these circles of seeing an illness which does not, let's say, have a cure over here in this branch of medicine and seeking, oh, what can be done, or what does this branch have to say about its cure? And ultimately I realized prevention is so much better, so much wiser, you might say. People these days, they pile up so much money that who knows which illness may come towards the end of my life, which is true. But I remember once, when I learned these teachings, a friend of mine in the hospital, he asked me, so which health insurance do you have? And it just never struck me truly to have one. And I said, for now I don't need it. And why I say that? Because when we truly are interested in gaining something, it will come to you. It's like our Dharmacharya Jyotishji, he often makes this statement, if you love anything enough, it will reveal itself to you. And actually, I see these teachings as that for myself. That as a doctor, I would read this book, Gray's Anatomy. It's such a big, fat volume. And I said, if I must treat the body, I should know so much about it, inside out. But I realized, there are infinite permutations and combinations happening in the physical body. And knowing just that still was not helping the problem when illnesses came. So what is this astral body? Well, Paramahansa Yoganandaji's Guru said that when God made this universe, he said that he had nothing to create it from. Just like, normally when we create something, we buy some wood, we cut it in a certain way, and you might say we make a small pen holder, or a pencil, because that's the vision we had for the object. And Swamiji said that God did not make the world like that. He had his consciousness, his awareness, his thought was so potent, and by his will, he vibrated a part of his consciousness, which became, you might say, the galaxy or the universe actually of thoughts. Infinite, literally. From there, he says, it was still not accomplished, and God made it denser, and he caused these thoughts to become condensed into energy form. The astral universe, where the astral body, as you can now see, resides. And ultimately, when that astral body, is drawn into the physical body through the conception, it comes into the physical body and it becomes more condensed. And here, it has life in it. So it's a moving thing. And often, people think, well, death has to come this way or that. Why bother about health? I think that pessimism, that lack of or indifference is the root cause of man's misery. Because you see, people, to whatever degree they take care of their health, they are benefited. They, you can see, are more healthy than other people. Now, of course, we don't want to be fanatic on any subject, but to take control to whatever degree is expected of us is beneficial, Master said that God's consciousness manifests in 4 stages. Mon, the mind. Buddhi, the mind which identifies, understands. Buddhi, the intelligence which understands on a deeper aspect what is what. Ahankar, the ego, which starts relating things in relation to itself in the world. And ultimately Chitta, the ability to like, dislike, feel attracted or distanced from good and bad things. And from there we develop discrimination. But ultimately we have to use these faculties to develop the highest awareness. And that's why I say, if you simply reject this idea of an astral universe or astral body, I would simply say this: why don't you go one step ahead and experience it? Because when you experience it, then alone actually, who can even talk about the physical universe, which we are all part of? Nobody, we can only talk of as much as we have seen of it. Likewise, the astral body, when we can experience it, see its effect in our own body and feel those currents, then we can say, yes, this is true. So today I'll be talking about that. Now these chakras, as I said, are energy stations, and in our astral body, which is a blueprint of the physical body, we have an astral spine, and on either side of it are nerve channels. Just like, you might, if you studied the human anatomy, there's the physical spine, and then on left and right side is a nerve chain right from the base of the brain down to the spinal cord. These are called they compose the autonomic nervous system, the vagus nerve, and it controls everything from eye, lubrication to the nasal secretion, oral secretions, throat, discharges in the stomach, glands, and all the other body functions of digestion, propulsion, sweating, stress reaction, that it is autonomous. It is often not in our control. So also, if you have seen a fish, especially a big fish, you'll see it has a central spine and then two bone channels going parallel to that main bony segment in the middle. So all of us in manifestation are made like that. Now in that astral energy spine, there are 7 stations or chakras or energy centers, you might say. These actually can very easily be seen in an aura photography. If you search up that, you can get an aura picture of yours, and it's a wonderful mechanism by which the electrical resistivity of your nerves, your body, is taken, and the electrical imprint is given to you as a photograph. And then you can see the picture of your chakras, and believe it or not, I have done hundreds of these pictures for others, and in the process spoken to them. Once I remember doing it for some college students who had come because we were giving a special discount on this, and they all were so excited and they were getting these pictures done, till one of their friends sat in front of the camera and his spiritual eye picture came out really big. And they were asking, what's the significance, what's wrong with his head, why is there so much violet light, which is the color of the spiritual eye, in his head? And I said, let's ask him. I said, do you meditate? And he says, no. And his friend said, oh, he stays with us all the time, he doesn't meditate. And I said, do you read spiritual books? He says, no. I said, do you pray? He says, yes. And he looked around and he didn't want to share that. And he says, every night for many minutes I pray for all my friends. And there was a silence at that moment, and I could immediately see he was a pure soul, and he was doing this selfless act for many years, and it was showing in his energy print of the body. So these chakras are there. Now, we had discussed in our previous class that energy enters the body through the medulla oblongata. That part is called the mouth of God. It's opposite our mouth. It's the part of the brain, and it comes in and goes into the spine, it goes into the brain and all the nerves, and often this energy goes out. Actually, it is that energy alone which manifests and makes everything else possible for us. For example, in sleep, we don't eat, we don't drink, but most of us, practically all of us, wake up from sleep energized, refreshed. That's because Yoganandaji says that through the night, through your sleep, this energy was filling you, and in the day when you go out and you're using your brain, your senses, your muscles, he says you're spending all that currency which you gain. Now, of course, through meditation we gain it in a very active way through the daytime also. So chakras, you might say, like I sang that chant, door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. We will see that we are not just studying them. Using our will and our intentions, we can control the energy that flows through them. It is said in yoga that the Kundalini energy, the energy actually of the entire universe, lies at the base of the spine at every man's disposal. And if he must raise that energy, it has to be through these chakras. Actually, these chakras, they are 5 in number till the throat, and then 6 over here, the 7th at the top of the head. And it is said in the symbolism of the Mahabharata that these chakras stand, each of them stands for the 5 Pandavas, Yudhishthira at the top, others being before that. And this is the Krishna consciousness or Kutastha Chaitanya center, where Krishna is symbolism of Krishna, and then of course the topmost is the center for liberation. That we have to open the doors, or you might say gates. They are not separate in themselves, especially in the physical body, and especially in medicine we are used to dealing or treating each illness as separate from the rest of the body. But honestly, for a yogi, especially he who realizes that everything is a manifestation of energy, would benefit so much by understanding how the energy flows. So the Kundalini energy is at the base of the spine. It is lying dormant, and that is where we have to use our intelligence, our ego, our willpower, our intention to understand how it works and to awaken that energy. Now, let me quickly tell you where these centers are located and how they correspond in our physical body. The lowest chakra, the Muladhara chakra, is at the base of the spine. It is also known as the coccygeal energy center, and it is, there actually we can find a coccygeal nerve plexus. And because you see, Paramahansa Yogananda ji said the nervous system is the highway to the infinite, and wherever energy has to be dispersed through the physical body, nerves do that job. They are like the wiring, you might say, of our body, and coccygeal plexus is there. Then a 1.5 inch over that is our sacral plexus, the Swadhisthana chakra. You come to behind the navel, where we are attached to our mother's placenta. There is the Manipur chakra, which has the lumbar nerve plexus. Behind the heart, in the center of the chest, not behind the physical heart, but in the center of the chest, we have the thoracic nerve plexus, and right there is the energy center, the heart chakra, the Anahat chakra. Then right here where the thyroid gland is situated and the cervical plexus is there, we have the cervical chakra or the Vishuddha chakra, and ultimately at the point between the two eyebrows is the positive pole, and at the medulla is the negative pole of the 6th chakra. Each of these chakras actually have a positive and negative pole. I will not go into detail, but actually when I described you the nerve channels on either side of the spine, the astral spine has 2 nerve channels, the Ida on the left and the Pingala on the right, and energy rises through the Ida, comes down through the Pingala, but they are actually coiled. They are not straight as we often show them. So when they are coiled, they touch the chakra on 2 sides as the energy ascends and descends, and that causes the polarity or the current to flow even within the chakra from one to the other. At the top of the head is the Sahasrara chakra. Now, I spoke that these nerve plexuses are there, but also in our physical body we have glands which carry out certain functions that are otherwise done by these chakras. For example, I said the thyroid gland is situated over here. So many people suffer from thyroid illness, and I've often wondered, we have no treatment for it, except that, we manage whatever symptoms people have. But once I met a lady who practices in UK, and she said, I am an Ayurvedic practitioner. I've been practicing for about 25 years there. And I said, what kind of illnesses do you treat? She said, whatever comes my way, mostly medical illnesses. And I said, do you treat thyroid illnesses? She said, yes. I said, what do you prescribe for hypo or hyperthyroidism? She says, well, apart from the regular medication that is available in Ayurveda, I ask my patients to practice yoga, certain yoga postures, and to sing. She says, because you see, the thyroid gland is here, the Vishuddha chakra is here, and she says, I see it as excess of energy or lack of energy, or you might say the gates are closed for that chakra. And she says, I try to see how I can enhance that for each patient. And today in our class also we will discuss some of the ways to strengthen and to open these chakras, to magnetize these chakras more. So she was dealing with this. Now, the chakra over here can be the thyroid gland. If it is too active, people can become restless beyond their control. And if it becomes very inactive, they can become very lazy, lethargic, put on so much weight, and even the mental sluggishness can set in. So isn't that good to know that, there is something we can do, we can control it? Likewise, our chakra in the Manipur area, it controls all the digestion, digestive glands are in control of that. And if we do not take care of the body, the chakra is weakened. On the other hand, if because of our past lives, samskars and habit patterns, a chakra is weakened, there are things we can do in the body and through the chakra to strengthen it. So it works both ways. I want to also emphasize the point that the health that we are talking, especially in this series, is not just physical health. Paramahansa Yogananda ji actually said that that will come. He says, but true health is attained when human awareness is united with God's consciousness. And he says that is where true freedom is found. A month ago I was in my hospital and somebody came to have a discussion on health with me, and that person said, we were talking about good health, and the person says, well sir, good health is the slowest route to death. And I thought about it, I laughed for a moment, but I later said, let's not think of it that way. People think death as the end of all life. No. When we understand that it is just one of the journeys, often in the hospital, I've seen people who are alive now, moments later they are not alive, they have passed away. And I wonder, where are they right now? And actually, if you look at them simply with some distance, you can see they're sleeping actually. They have gone to sleep and they will wake up, as the masters tell us, in some other universe and such. So let's keep that in mind as we go through the health aspect of these chakras. Now, what are the functions that these chakras serve? Plus, I said in the beginning that God created us through these three filters, you might say: mind, energy, ultimately manifesting us as body. And that can be seen in the chakras too. They are energy centers, yes. Paramahansa Yogananda ji also said that our habits, tendencies, our behavior pattern, desires, he says they all are, you might say, like a shelf kept in different chakras, because each chakra represents a different quality. And he says that when we are reborn, we work, as energy flows through them, we start manifesting and again seeking that fulfillment through these chakras. So they are, you might say, a storage of information, not just these gateways of energy passing and distribution. But what else can these chakras do? Well, let's talk about the elemental form that is composed in the basic nature of these chakras. It is said that the lowest chakra represents the earth element and our proximity to matter consciousness, or rootedness or groundedness is to be found in that chakra. And if we go a step higher in Swadhisthana chakra, where the sexual organs are situated, that is the water element. And next up high is the fire element. Coming to the heart center, it is the element of ether, or air actually, sorry, which is represented over here. Finally, ether over here, and Paramahansa Yogananda ji added that at the spiritual eye, it is super ether, or you might say ether, beyond, going now even beyond space. And these are also, if you meditate, you'll see that these are the ways in which God condensed His spirit and consciousness, and our job is now to slowly awaken and allow it to expand. You see, many people, they think of health or human birth, ultimately when they come to understand what a vision God had in mind in creating us, they think of it as a bit too long, which it is. But remember, this is super ether. Paramahansa Yogananda ji said, when joy is felt, he says you instantly, which is felt over here, he says you're bypassing all time and all space. And in that realm, in that, you might say, moment of awareness, it does not matter, it does not exist. And of course, when we are in lower states of consciousness, it is where we are. But once we come to know of this, it is our job, and it should be actually taken up as the highest responsibility to see how we can always keep ourselves in the greater awareness of who we truly are. I want to speak now about the qualities or the habits or the tendencies and desires, which I said, which are located in these chakras, and how they can help us gain greater health. In the last two classes we discussed that it is not just food or things that we drink and eat or listen only that constitute our health. the health is also affected quite a bit by our mental states and our tendencies. Beginning in the Muladhara chakra, the aspect of this chakra, you might say, I said it is the earth element, it is rootedness, it is, you might say, commitment. When we express our commitment, you can actually think of army soldiers or students in school who in the morning have to do this small march past, marching in place, or attention and stand at ease, that, thumping the foot on the ground, listening to the instructions of the senior person, that it is affirming a certain discipline, it's affirming loyalty. Yes, this is what I want to do. When we are committed to something, when we are persevering in something, we want that rock-like, earth-like quality in ourselves, and that comes through this chakra. And I'll talk about how we can meditate and strengthen, awaken these chakras, then we can gain those qualities. Please, at any point, do not feel. So many people make that excuse because of lack of knowledge, I said, and often their own indifference to pursue their understanding further, that this is how they are. Now that we know that this is where the quality is situated, we can tweak it. Energy is much more easy to change than matter. So the energy of the first chakra brings the positive quality of loyalty and commitment and perseverance. But of course, as you can see, I will just lightly touch on the negative aspects also, so that we can see how we can correct if those tendencies are to be noticed in us or other people. It can become stubbornness, or unwillingness to change our attitude or our way of seeing things. That is if the energy is blocked, or if that chakra is not fully allowing that current to flow through it. These chakras in the energy spine ideally open up one into the other. You can imagine them like a bud which is closed, or even like sometimes a rose or a flower when the petals are pointing downwards. And the Srimad Bhagavatam shares this teaching of Sri Krishna that we should visualize them as the petals turning upwards as we chant Om over there, or as we even mentally visualize that I want to offer or raise this energy up. We should visualize these petals turning up, and then it becomes very easy. God Himself helps us in that effort then. The second chakra, which is the water element, is actually has the beautiful quality of accommodativeness, of flowing with the situation. And you will see this in some people, that they are going in a certain way and suddenly comes a problem and they're not baffled by it. They say, oh, let's do it this way. They will, like water, if a rock comes in its way, it will flow around that rock, it will find its way. And that is where you can see, if you have that quality, that is where it is rooted. Intuition more than logical reasoning. Some people, they plan their lives years in advance. Once somebody asked me if I needed money to start my rural clinic, which I ran for many years, and I said, of course, She said that, how about $60,000? I said, oh, that's a lot. I said, oh, I could buy land and make a building with that kind of money. I said, it will be very good. And she said, okay, good. I can give you that money in 13 years. I said, 13 years? I mean, this was a telephonic discussion. I said, who plans their donation or assistance over 13 years, or their finances over 13 years? So that kind of, people can go that far. But if you're in the present, you can also flow with the situations. And I immediately readjusted and accommodated my planning, you might say, based on what was said to me. This quality, of course, when the chakra is not in our control, and especially if people are too much sexually indulgent, can become wishy-washiness, lack of commitment, or in their nature. The third thing that we can see is, third chakra is the chakra of self-control, the Manipur chakra. It brings enthusiasm for life. It brings, you might say, zest, joy in everything that we do. It also, to be chiefly understood how it works through our body, is we have to control this energy. You see, energy is required to accomplish anything. And so many people in the process of accomplishing something lose their energy. Whereas the Bhagavad Gita counsels, in everything there should be a gentle self-control, and the energy should be used, but it should be also in your control, just like how the horses of Arjun's chariot were always in Krishna's control. Otherwise they could take him any which way, and that cannot be called an accomplishment. People are going in any direction, sometimes towards the end of their life, to realize they just were not happy because they didn't want to take that direction. So when we apply self-control, then we can go about our life enthusiastically and be in control of everything that we do. That quality comes by meditating and developing the Manipur chakra. The heart chakra is, as you can imagine, for love, for devotion, for sharing, for concern for others. And that is a very important quality, a concern for anything that we do or any person we want to help. But it can go into attachment, it can go into then holding them, desiring, expecting things from them in a certain way, and that again becomes confining. It's a fine line, but love should ideally be impersonal, it should be given. And you may think, now what are these attitudes, what do they have to do with my health? Well, I would say they have everything to do. What do we say when somebody passes due to heart attack? His heart failed. I often think of it, somebody went so far in the world with so many desires of accomplishing ambitions. The heart had to fail. The heart could not keep up with his mental list of things to do in this short life. Keep your attachment in a healthy condition at least. Keep your ambitions true to your joy, true to your real aspirations. Don't let any part of your body fail without your giving it that permission to. They say ultimately death must come, but if you listen to some stories of people, especially I've heard of Indian and Native American people would often know just 3 generations ago, often they would know when they would pass, at least the day. They would often tell. My mom's grandmother, and I've heard from many people that in that generation people would say, I'm going to leave my body in 2 days, 3 days. And how did they know that? Because there comes a time, there comes a ripeness in our understanding, and when you know that what the divine had to play through us is done and now I'm going. So don't control the heart. Heart attack, which is so common, people are, Master, he passed away through heart attack actually, but his was a conscious exit. And somebody once told me that, but even he died of heart attack. I'm talking about Paramahansa Yogananda ji. And later Swamiji wrote in his book, The New Path, when he revised it, he said, Master told us even before he left his body that I will choose to die through a silent heart attack. You have to choose some physical way to go, but let it be in your control. This center, the Vishuddha, is for oneness, calmness, peace, and ultimately the spiritual eye, the point between the 2 eyebrows, is a center for concentration, for willpower, for focus, for integration, and for feeling joy, for divine experiences, ultimately for enlightenment. It comes at this point. And the top of the head is for liberation. So in the spiritual path, Paramahansa Yogananda ji said, try to bring your energy at this point, and then subtle channels will open from here to the top of the head, and when it's time for liberation, that will come by the grace of God and Guru, and as does enlightenment. So now we have this understanding of how the chakras work and how we can control them. I want to speak now a little bit about the colors. Now these chakras can be experienced by meditation. We also teach something called energization exercises, which are done on a physical level to begin with, but ultimately they make us aware of how the energy, the prana, life force, it moves in our body. And very quickly you can see that using your willpower, using your breath, you can bring the chakras to open and to offer their energy one into the other and raise our energy. When the energy is raised, our consciousness is raised. Our mind becomes elevated, moods and unwillingness, mental states of lethargy, all these things are banished. So that's a wonderful way, also through yoga postures, we can strengthen these chakras by chanting Om at the chakras, which is, each time we discussed in the last satsang, when we chant, when we speak anything, everything is in vibration. So when a certain mantra, or especially the mantra of Om, which is the highest mantra, when that is spoken, knowing the position of the chakras for it, and actually there are notes for each chakra at which they resonate the best. When it is set in that way, we can heal that chakra. I've heard of many people deriving peace, freedom from hypertension, easing body pain in themselves by chanting Om in the chakra or in the part of the body where chakras, direct the energy. So just a passing thought, when I mentioned these nerve plexuses, you can see that the plexus in the heart area, of course, must be giving the nerve supply to the lungs, to the heart, to all the arms and muscles in the hand, and likewise for each body part, stomach, legs, sexual organs. So there is a very defined pattern, and you might say a beautiful synchrony happening in the body machinery. It's like a factory which is working, cooperatively, and energy makes that happen smoothly. Now I mentioned about these sounds, and that is again for a person who wants to believe and experience chakras deeply, is a very direct place to head for to experience these sounds. Just 2 days ago I was reading an extract from Saint Bernadette's life, and she was a lady who just about, I think a girl actually, about 200 years ago, 150 years ago, she lived in France, South France, and in her teen age, at one point she had the vision of Virgin Mary. And the first time when she had that vision, before that she described her experience as this. She said, I heard the rustling of leaves, but to my astonishment, when I looked around, all the leaves of every tree were still. And she said moments later she had this apparition and she saw the Blessed Virgin Mary. What did she hear then? Now this phenomena, as you will read the lives of saints, is very common, almost universal in everyone's life. Basically what's happening over here is, we are hearing the sound, we are going beyond. When you have a higher aspiration, especially a spiritual ambition and aspiration, God pulls you up and you start experiencing things which are beyond the body, which are of the astral body, and these sounds are heard in the inner ear, like she heard. And I can tell you many stories about this. Once Paramhansa Yoganandaji was with his first American disciple in a room, Dr. Lewis, and Master said, would you like to hear the hum or the motor of the first chakra? The first chakra, the Muladhara, has the sound of a motor or a bumblebee. And Master then made that sound, and later Dr. Lewis said the whole room was reverberating with it. The second chakra has the sound of the flute, and listening to it alone, and you can see why people enjoy these sounds. The flute is so healing, so much instrumental meditational music has been composed around the flute. That is the sound which is heard in the second chakra. Again, the instrument of harp, sitar or veena, which is so soothing to our ears, can be heard when the third chakra is awakened. The temple bells and church gong sound can be heard in the heart chakra. And I know of a lady from our group in Mumbai who once came to our ashram, and later she asked me who was playing the gong throughout our meditation. And I was meditating, I didn't hear any gong. And then I said, and she's a very devotional person, and I said, you felt the heart's inner sound, I think. And then she said, yes, it was, now that I think of it, it was not external, but I didn't have any prior experience, so I thought it was an outside sound. Then of course the sound of wind through the trees is heard in our throat chakra, and the sound of Om, which I said is so healing, so soothing. It is said to be so relishable that one cannot get tired of it to eternity. That sound is heard at the spiritual. It's the culmination or the combination of all these sounds. So these sounds can be heard, especially I have a friend who told me that when she had done a lot of kriyas once, when she was in the Himalayas, she heard all these chakras, and at will she could try to listen and go deep into each of these chakras, sounds. So how nice that we can have such control using our willpower. We can explore, and you of course come out from this healthy, so glowing, so full of life force. It is needless to say, actually miracles of many of the saints happen through their ability to gather, contain, carry and transmit life force to other people. So this is a wonderful way to tune into it. And very briefly I'll talk about now the colors of these chakras and how the science of the gemstones is so closely. It is scientific first of all, and you can read a chapter in Autobiography of a Yogi, Outwitting the Stars, to understand it deeply. But each of our chakras, also when we meditate deeply, we can see a color around the chakra which is most energetic, you might say. Once I met with a lady who said she was very devotional, she was a nurse, a lot of caring nature. And she said, you know, of late I have seen a green halo around everything. And you know, her friend in the group, he said, oh yes, she saw grass a bit too closely and now she's carrying it everywhere. It was not grass. It is the color of the heart chakra. It's the halo of love that was in her, and she was projecting it, seeing it in everything that she was witnessing. Again, the first chakra carries the color of red, fiery color, then color of orange. Come to the higher chakra, yellow, green, as I mentioned, blue, violet, and indigo. That and ultimately they all fuse to become the white light, which is seen at the spiritual eye, the star. And these colors, again, when you see them, they have a healing power, and that's why this can describe our liking of gemstones, especially of very pure quality. And Yogananda Ji's guru said, when you wear them next to your skin, he says, as the sunlight passes through them, it transmits a certain magnetism, a vibration, a light, and that enhances your aura of your body and protects you from many spiritual, mental and physical illnesses. And so you can, it's called a Navratna actually, but you can also wear something based on your horoscope. Likewise, many times people wear these amulets or bangles around, made of gold, silver and copper. Especially Yogananda Ji had told us that this is a very nice general combination for everybody to wear, and this will enhance their aura. The same thing, everything is a manifestation of vibration, and so are metals, and they transmit a certain electrical energy which has its magnetism, which again strengthens our aura. So think about these things. And just to close this session now, all the things that I mentioned, all the tools and techniques to strengthen our chakras through other colors and gemstones and all are good, but also remember that the Kundalini energy, which is at the base of our spine, it can be awakened very directly through devotion and through offering ourselves, through correct attitudes, through Kriya Yoga, which deals with the life force directly, through selfless service, which uses, it's like you might say using your hands and feet, which are two of the main chakras, to open them and allow this energy to slowly and more and more uninterruptedly come up. Also, if you see that any of your attitudes are blocking this progress, then try to rectify them through meditation or other things. And our next topic for the coming week will be how to gain greater health through mental attitudes. Joy to you.